Commander Jake Martinez stared at the red numbers on his screen. The mining quota for Kepler Station was behind schedule again, 3 months behind, to be exact. The corporate bosses back on Earth would not be happy about this delay. Jake rubbed his tired eyes and looked out the window of his office. The planet below was a mess of purple storms and acid rain. Sharp rocks stuck out from the ground like broken teeth. Nothing grew there except for some nasty plants that could eat through metal. Most alien species called Earth a death world. They said humans were crazy for living on such a dangerous planet. But Earth looked like paradise compared to this place. The miners called it Hell's Kitchen, and Jake agreed with them. A soft beep came from his door. "Come in," Jake said. Dr. Lisa Harper walked into the office. She carried a datapad and looked worried. Lisa was the chief scientist on the station. She studied the local life forms, though Jake wondered why anyone would want to study creatures that spent most of their time trying to kill you. "Jake, we need to talk," Lisa said. She sat down in the chair across from his desk. "Let me guess. The acid slugs ate through another mining drill." "No, it's not that." Lisa set her datapad on the desk. "I've been studying the planet's ecosystem. For 2 years now. Something's wrong." Jake leaned back in his chair. "Everything's wrong with this planet. It's why we get hazard pay." "I'm serious, Jake. Look at this data." Lisa turned the pad so he could see it. Charts and graphs filled the screen. The local animals are acting strange. They're all moving toward the northern continent. All of them. Maybe there's a food source there. No, that's just it. There's nothing there but bare rock and lava flows. No food, no water, nothing that would attract them. But they keep going anyway. Jake looked at the data more closely. Even he could see the pattern. Every animal on the planet was moving north. How long has this been going on? 3 weeks? But it's getting stronger. Even the acid slugs are leaving their feeding grounds. Before Jake could answer, his unit buzzed. Amy Collins' voice came through the speaker. Amy was their communications officer, a young woman who had joined the station 6 months ago. "Commander Martinez, you need to get to the center right now." "What's the problem, Amy?" "Sir, I'm picking up signals from deep space. Big ones. Really big ones." Jake and Lisa looked at each other. In the 3 years since Kepler Station had been built, they had never detected any signals from space, except routine traffic from Earth and the other human colonies. They hurried to the communications center. Amy sat at her station, headphones on, fingers flying over her controls. Banks of computers lined the walls, all showing the same thing. Massive energy readings coming from somewhere beyond the outer planets. "Show me what you've got," Jake said. Amy pulled up a display on the main screen. "I started picking up these signals about an hour ago. First I thought it was just background noise, but the pattern is too regular. Something's out there and it's big." Captain Ben Torres entered the center. Ben was the station's security chief, quiet man who had served in the military during the Titan Wars. He had seen more combat than the rest of them combined. "What's all the excitement about?" Ben asked. "We're getting signals from deep space," Jake said. "Amy, how big are we talking?" Amy checked her readings again. "Based on the energy output, I'd say we're looking at something the size of a small moon. Maybe bigger." Ben moved closer to the screen. His face went pale. "How many signals?" "That's the weird part," Amy said. "There are dozens of them, all moving in formation, all heading this way." The room went quiet. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In all the years humans had been exploring space, they had found plenty of dead worlds and empty systems. But they had never found any signs of active alien technology. "Could it be the consortium?" Lisa asked. Jake shook his head. The Galactic Consortium had made contact with humanity 50 years ago. Their ships were smaller and used different technology. These signals were nothing like consortium vessels. "Amy, how long until they reach our system?" Nick asked. Amy did some quick calculations. "At their current speed, about 6 days. 6 days, Ben repeated. He looked at Jake. "Commander, I recommend we go to full alert status." "Agreed." Jake turned to Amy. "Send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them, we have unknown contacts approaching Kepler system. Request immediate assistance." "Already done, sir." "But the nearest Earth Defense Force ship is 3 weeks away." Jake felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. Kepler Station had a population of 800 people. Out. Miners, scientists, technicians, and their families. If these unknown ships were hostile, there was nowhere to run and no way to fight back. Lisa, I want you to keep monitoring those animals. If they're reacting to something we can't detect, I want to know about it. What if they're running from something? Lisa asked quietly. The question hung in the air like smoke.
Ouch.
Jake had been thinking the same thing, but hearing it out loud made it worse. The animals on the planet below had survived in one of the most hostile environments in known space. If they were running, what could be so dangerous that it scared them? Ben, I want all security teams on full alert. Check our defensive systems. Amy, keep monitoring those signals. Want to know the moment anything changes. Jake looked around the room at his team. These were good people, but they were miners and scientists, not soldiers. If trouble was coming, they would have to face it together. Outside the station, the purple storms continued to rage across the planet's surface. But somewhere in the darkness, between the stars, something much worse was heading their way. Something that would soon remind the galaxy why some worlds were called Deathworlds, and why the species that survived on them should never be underestimated. Admiral Patricia Wells stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station. Staring at the message from Kepler Station, the words on the screen made her stomach turn cold. Unknown alien contacts, massive energy signatures, no identification. Signals she had been expecting bad news for weeks now. Reports had been coming in from across human space about strange readings and unexplained phenomena. Ships going missing, colonies losing contact, and now this. Ma'am, we have Ambassador Clark on the line from Consortium Space, her aide said. Him through. The large screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Ryan Clark sitting in his office on New Geneva. Behind him, the blue-green world of the Consortium capital gleamed in the sunlight. Ryan looked tired and worried. Patricia, thank God you answered. We have a serious problem. I'm looking at the report from Kepler Station now. What do you know? About these unknown contacts? Ryan's face went pale.
Oh, more than I want to.
The Consortium Council called an emergency session 3 hours ago. They're in complete panic mode. Admiral Wells frowned. In the 50 years since first contact, she had never seen the Consortium panic about anything. They were the most peaceful and calm species in the galaxy. Their entire civilization was built on avoiding conflict. What's got them so scared? They won't tell me directly, but I've been piecing things together from what I can overhear. Patricia, I think they know what those ships are. Before she could respond, another voice came from behind Ryan. Ambassador Clark, the Council will see you now. Ryan looked back at the screen. I have to go. But Patricia, start preparing our defenses. I have a feeling we're going to need them. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Wells staring at a blank screen. She turned to her staff officer.
Get me Dr. Kevin Ross at the Historical Institute. Right now?
10 minutes later, Dr. Ross appeared on her screen. He was an older man with gray hair and thick glasses. Kevin spent most of his time studying ancient civilizations and dead languages. Not the kind of person you usually called during a military crisis. Admiral, what can I do for you? Kevin, I need you to tell me about the history of this galaxy. Before the consortium was formed, what happened to all the other civilizations? Dr. Ross looked surprised. That's an odd question. Why do you ask? Just humor me. What do you know? Kevin adjusted his glasses. Well, from what we can piece together, there were dozens of advanced civilizations in this galaxy about 500 years ago, much more advanced than anything we see today. But they all disappeared around the same time. Disappeared how? That's the mystery. There's no evidence of war between them, no signs of plague or natural disaster. They just vanished. The only species that survived were the ones that would later form the consortium. Admiral Wells felt a chill run down her spine. Kevin, what if they didn't disappear on their own? What if something made them disappear? You mean like an outside force? Some kind of predator species? It's exactly what I mean. Dr. Ross was quiet for a long moment. Admiral, if something was powerful enough to wipe out dozens of advanced civilizations, and if it's coming back, then we're in serious trouble. The transmission ended, and Admiral Wells turned to her staff. I want all fleet commanders on a priority channel in 30 minutes. Full alert status for all Earth Defense Forces. Meanwhile, on New Geneva, Ambassador Clark sat in the Consortium Council chambers, listening to the most terrifying conversation of his life. Council members, representatives from 12 different species, were talking in hushed tones about something they called the harvest. Zektar Vel, the senior council member from the Altarian species, finally spoke directly to Ryan. Ambassador Clark, your species was never supposed to be contacted. I'm sorry, what do you mean? When we first discovered Earth 50 years ago, we debated whether to make contact. Your species showed too many aggressive tendencies, too much willingness to fight. Ryan felt anger rising in his chest. So you thought about leaving us alone? You thought it would be safer that way? For everyone. Another council member, a tall blue creature called Nethera, spoke up. The Devourers do not tolerate aggressive species. They cleanse the galaxy of such civilizations every few hundred years. The Devourers, Ryan asked. Sector Val's eyes went. Dark, ancient machines, built by a civilization that died out millions of years ago. They were programmed to eliminate any species that might threaten galactic peace. You mean they commit genocide? They call it harvesting. Sweep through the galaxy, destroying any civilization that shows warlike tendencies. Then they return to deep space and wait. Ryan felt sick. How long have you known about this? Our ancestors survived the last harvest 500 years ago by hiding, by showing complete submission, by proving we were no threat to anyone. You never thought to fight back? The entire council chamber went silent. Nethara finally spoke. Fight back, Ambassador. You do not understand. Devourers cannot be fought. They are too powerful, too advanced. Resistance only ensures complete destruction. So you just hide and hope they don't notice you? We built our entire civilization on peace, on avoiding anything that might be seen as aggressive. It is kept us safe for 5 centuries. Ryan stood up from his chair.
Right.
And now they're back, and you want my species to hide too. Your species cannot hide, Zektar, Vel said sadly. You come from what you call a Deathworld.
Oh.
You have too much violence in your nature. The Devourers will see this immediately. So what are you saying? We are saying that humanity's contact with the consortium may have doomed us all. The Devourers will see our association with you as contamination. They will harvest not just your species, but ours as well. Ryan felt the room spinning around. Him, the peaceful consortium, the alliance that humanity had been so proud to join, was built on cowardice and betrayal. And now their cowardice might get everyone killed. There has to be another way, Ryan said. There is no other way, Nethera replied. There is only submission or death. And for species like yours, there is only death. Ryan looked around the chamber at the alien faces staring back at him. These beings had survived by surrendering their courage, their will to fight, their very souls. And now they expected humanity to do the same. But Ryan knew his species better than that. Humans didn't surrender, didn't hide. And they certainly didn't give up without a fight. The Devourers were about to learn what it meant to threaten a Deathworld species. General Sam Mitchell stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, looking at the tactical display that showed every human ship in the galaxy. Red icons marked the approaching Devourer fleet. Blue icons showed human vessels. There were far more red than blue. How many ships do we have? Sam asked his aide. 230 combat vessels, sir? Plus about 400 civilian ships that could be armed if needed, and the Devourers. Intelligence estimates over 3,000 ships in the main fleet, possibly more following behind. Sam rubbed his jaw. The numbers were bad, but he had fought worse odds before. During the Titan Wars, he had commanded a ground assault against rebel forces that outnumbered his troops 10-1. They had won that battle by being smarter, faster, and more ruthless than their enemies. Captain Nina Rodriguez entered the war room, still wearing her flight suit. She had just returned from a reconnaissance mission to the outer system, where The first Devourer scouts had been detected. "What did you see out there, Nina?" Sam asked. Nina pulled up her mission data on the main screen. "Their ships are big, sir. Really big. Each one is the size of a small city. But they're old. The technology looks advanced, but it's not new. I'd say these machines haven't upgraded their systems in centuries." "Did they detect you?" "I don't think so. They scan in very predictable patterns. It's like they expect everything to just run away from them." Sam nodded. "Because that's exactly what has happened for the last 500 years. Every species they've encountered has either hidden or surrendered without a fight." Engineer Tony Kim looked up from his workstation. "General, I've been analyzing the sensor data from Captain Rodriguez's mission. These Devourer ships have massive energy shields, but they all operate on the same frequency. They're not designed to handle multiple simultaneous attacks from different angles." "Explain that in simple terms, Tony." "Their shields can stop one big attack, but they can't handle a swarm of smaller attacks all at once. It's like having a really strong door that can stop a battering ram, but can't stop 50 people with hammers hitting it at the same time." Sam smiled for the first time in days. "So we don't fight them head on. We hit them with everything we have, all at once, from every direction." Colonel Steve Parker, the ground forces commander, spoke up from across the room. "Sir, what about the consortium species? Are they going to help us fight?" Sam's smile faded. "The Consortium Council has officially declared neutrality. They say fighting the Devourers will only make things worse, so they're just going to let us die. That's about the size of it. But I've been getting unofficial messages from some of their military officers. A few of them want to help, but their governments won't let them." Nina looked angry. "So we're on our own." "We've been on our own since the day we left Earth," Sam said. "The only difference now is that everyone else knows it too." The wall screen chimed with an incoming message. Admiral Wells appeared from her command station. "Sam, I just got word from Ambassador Clark. The consortium has ordered all their ships to retreat to their home systems. They're abandoning the outer colonies, all of them. Every single one. They're leaving millions of people to fend for themselves." Felt sick. The consortium colonies were full of civilians. Farmers, merchants, families with children. If the Devourers were really as ruthless as everyone said, those people would be slaughtered. "Patricia, how many civilian transports do we have available? Maybe 50 ships that could carry refugees?" "Why?" "I want every available transport heading to those abandoned colonies. We evacuate as many people as we can." Colonel Parker looked surprised. "Sir, that will leave us with even fewer ships to fight the Devourers." "I know the math, Steve, but I'm not going to let innocent people die just because their governments are cowards." Nina stepped forward. "General, I volunteer too. Lead the evacuation flights. Nina, those are some of our best pilots. We need them for the battle." "Sir, with respect, what's the point of winning a battle if we lose our souls doing it? If we let innocent people die when we could save them, we're no better than the machines we're fighting." Sam looked around the room at his officers. These were soldiers who had sworn to protect humanity, but they were volunteering to risk their lives for aliens who had abandoned them. "All right, Nina, take 20 ships and start evacuation runs. But I want you back here before the main fleet arrives." "Yes, sir." Tony Kim spoke up again. "General, I've been working on something else. The Devourers use artificial intelligence to control their fleets, but their AI is old and predictable. I think we can confuse their targeting systems. How noise? Electronic interference. If we can flood their sensors with false signals, they won't be able to tell which targets are real and which are decoys. Can you build something like that? I'll need every electronics expert we have working around the clock, but yes, we can make their advanced sensors work against them." Sam felt hope building in his chest. The Devourers had grown lazy and overconfident after centuries of easy victories. They expected their enemies to cower and surrender. They were not prepared. For a species that would fight back with everything they had? "Steve, I want you to start training volunteers from the evacuated colonies. Anyone who wants to learn how to fight?" "Sir, most of those aliens have never held a weapon in their lives." "Then we'll teach them. The Devourers want to harvest the galaxy because they think We're all weak and helpless. It's time to prove them wrong. Captain Rodriguez checked her chronometer. General, I need to get moving if we're going to reach those colonies in time. Go, and Nina. Be careful out there. Always am, sir. As Nina left the war room, Sam turned back to the tactical display. The red icons were getting closer. In 48 hours, the Devourer fleet would reach the first human colony. In 72 hours, they would be at Earth. But for the first time in days, Sam felt confident. The Devourers expected fear and surrender. Instead, they were going to get something they had never faced before. A Deathworld species that refused to die quietly. The machines were about to learn why Earth was called a Deathworld, and why the species that survived there were too stubborn to know when they were beaten. Fleet Admiral Grace Thompson watched the enemy ships approach through the view screen of her flagship, the UES Victory. The Devourer fleet looked like a wall of dark metal stretching across space. Each ship was massive, bristling with weapons that could destroy planets. How many did we save? Grace asked her communications officer. Evacuation teams rescued 400,000 civilians from the abandoned colonies, ma'am. Captain Rodriguez's squadron is still bringing in the last transports. Grace nodded. It was not enough. There had been over 1 million people on those colonies, but 400,000 lives was better than none. The consortium governments had written off all those people as acceptable losses. Ma'am, incoming transmission from the Devourer flagship, the comm officer said. Put it through. The main screen filled with the image of a machine intelligence. It looked like a metal skull with glowing red eyes. When it spoke, its voice was cold and emotionless. Biological entities of the species designated human, you will surrender immediately and prepare for harvesting. Resistance will result in total extermination. Grace stood up from her command chair. This is Fleet Admiral Grace Thompson of the Earth Defense Force. We do not surrender. Your species designation indicates origin from planetary classification. Deathworld. Standard protocol requires immediate harvesting. Compliance is not optional. Then you better bring everything you have, because we will not go quietly. Machine's red eyes flickered. Defiance is irrelevant. Your species lacks sufficient technological development to oppose Devourer forces. Surrender and harvesting will be efficient. We'll see about that. Grace cut the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. All ships, execute Plan Alpha. Hit them with everything we have. The human fleet spread out into attack formation. 150 combat ships against 3,000 Devourer vessels. The odds were insane, but Grace had been in hopeless battles before. Sometimes the only way to win was to be too stupid to know you were beaten. Major Alex Chen crouched in an access tunnel deep inside a Devourer command ship. A small team had managed to infiltrate the massive vessel using stealth technology that the ancient machines had never encountered before. Their mission was simple. Cause as much chaos as possible from the inside. Charges are set on the main computer core, whispered Sergeant Lisa Wong. Good. Tommy, how are those sensor arrays coming? Corporal Tommy Martinez finished attaching explosives to a critical junction box. Ready to blow, sir? This should blind them for at least 10 minutes. Alex checked his chronometer. Fleet attack begins in 30 seconds. When those charges go off, these machines are going to know we're here. Everyone ready to run? His team nodded. Your special forces soldiers trained for missions that regular troops could not handle. But this was beyond anything they had ever attempted before? 10 seconds, Alex said. Remember, we don't need to destroy this ship. We just need to confuse it long enough for our fleet to hurt them. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The explosions rocked the Devourer ship. Emergency lights flashed as computer systems failed throughout the massive vessel. Alex and his team ran through corridors filled with sparks and smoke, heading for their extraction point on the bridge of the Victory. Grace watched as her fleet opened fire on the Devourer formation. Hundreds of missiles and energy beams struck the enemy's shields. Most of the attacks were absorbed, but some got through. Direct hit on Target 7, her tactical officer reported. Their shields are fluctuating. All ships, concentrate fire. On damaged targets, don't give them time to repair. Dr. Rachel Stone sat in her laboratory aboard the research vessel Challenger now watching her psychological warfare program take effect. She had spent weeks studying devourer communication patterns, learning how their artificial intelligence processed information. "It's working," she told her assistant. "Electronic interference is making them think there are twice as many ships as there really are. Their targeting computers can't decide which signals are real." Her program flooded devourer sensors with false data. Phantom ships appeared and disappeared on their screens. Real targets looked like decoys. Their ancient AI systems, built for predictable enemies, could not handle the chaos. Captain Luke Davis commanded the defense platforms around New Geneva Colony. His job was to hold the line while civilian transports evacuated the remaining population. The Devourers had sent a secondary fleet to attack the colony, while their main force fought the human fleet. "Sir, enemy ships are breaking through the outer perimeter," his weapons officer reported. "All batteries, continuous fire. Don't let them get close to the transports." Luke's platforms were heavily armed, but vastly outnumbered. Devourer ships swept toward the colony like a tide of destruction. But the human defenders did not retreat. They stood their ground and fought with everything they had. "Transport 7 is clear of the atmosphere," came a report over the comm. "How many more?" 15 transports still loading civilians, sir." Luke gritted his teeth. 15 more ships full of innocent people? He had to buy them time, no matter what it cost. All platforms ramming speed on the lead enemy ships. "If we're going down, we're taking some of them with us." Ice crews did not hesitate. The defense platforms, designed as stationary weapons, fired their engines and accelerated toward the Devourer fleet like guided missiles. It was suicide, but it would save lives. Back in the main battle, Fleet Admiral Thompson watched her tactical display with growing hope. The human fleet was taking heavy casualties, but they were hurting the Devourers too. Enemy ships burned and drifted in space. Others had pulled back to repair damage. "Ma'am, we're getting reports from other sectors." Her communications officer said, "The psychological warfare program is working. Enemy fleets are firing on each other in some areas. And Major Chen's infiltration teams have successfully sabotaged 12 command ships. Enemy coordination is breaking down." Grace allowed herself a small smile. The Devourers had expected easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, they were facing opponents who fought like demons and refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. "All ships," pressed the attack. "Show them what happens when you mess with a Deathworld species." The battle raged across the star system. Human ships darted between massive Devourer vessels, like angry wasps, stinging and retreating before the enemy could respond. The ancient machines, programmed for battles against conventional enemies, struggled to adapt to human tactics. For the first time in 500 years, the Devourers were losing a battle. And across the galaxy, other species watched, in amazement as the Deathworld humans proved that surrender was not the only option. President Helen Carter stood in the Situation Room beneath the Capitol, watching reports come in from across the galaxy. The human victory at New Geneva had sent shockwaves through consortium space. For the first time in 500 years, someone had defeated a Devourer fleet. "Ma'am, we're getting emergency communications from 17 different consortium worlds," her aide reported. "They're all asking for military assistance." Helen rubbed her temples. 3 days ago, these same worlds had refused to help humanity. Their governments had called humans to violent and dangerous. They were begging for protection. "What's our current military status?" Helen asked. Admiral Marcus Wright stepped forward. Marcus commanded the combined fleet that was now hunting down the remaining Devourer ships throughout human space. "We've destroyed or disabled about 60% of the enemy fleet, ma'am, but we've lost nearly half our ships doing it. The Devourers are regrouping and changing their tactics." "What do you mean? They're no longer trying to harvest worlds. Cleanly, they're just destroying everything. Burning entire planets to deny them to us." Helen felt sick. The Devourers were like a wounded animal, lashing out at everything around them. How many worlds have they hit? 12 so far? All of them consortium colonies that were abandoned by their governments. The death toll is in the millions. Susan Blake entered the room carrying a datapad. Susan was a psychologist who had been studying the traumatized alien refugees from the evacuated colonies. Helen, we need to talk about the refugee situation.
What's the problem?
It's not a problem exactly. It's more like a miracle. Susan set her pad on the table. The aliens we rescued are asking to fight. Helen looked surprised. Fight. But I thought consortium species were pacifists. They were. But seeing humans willing to die for them has changed something. They're angry about being abandoned by their own governments. They want revenge. Admiral Wright leaned forward. Many are we talking about? About 50,000 able-bodied volunteers so far? Most of them have no military training, but they're motivated. Commander Paul Rogers entered the room. Paul was in charge of integrating alien volunteers into human military units. It was a job nobody had expected to exist a week ago. Ma'am, I need to brief you on the volunteer situation, Paul said. Go ahead. We've got aliens learning to use human weapons, human tactics, even human curse words. Some of them are picking it up faster than others, but they all have one thing in common. They're absolutely furious about being abandoned. Helen sat down heavily in her chair. Paul, can they actually fight? Give me a month and I can make soldiers out of most of them. Give me 3 months and some of them will be better fighters than humans. These species have been suppressing their warrior instincts for centuries, but those instincts are still there. A communication alert sounded. The main screen showed Ambassador Ryan Clark calling from Consortium space. Helen, thank God you answered. The situation here is falling apart. What's happening, Ryan? The Consortium government is in complete chaos. Half the member species are demanding we surrender to the Devourers. The other half want to ally with humanity. 3 governments have already fallen, and the Devourers, they've stopped trying to harvest. They're just destroying everything now. They sent a message saying any species that aids humanity will be completely exterminated. Helen looked around the room at her advisors. Ryan, what's your recommendation? Need to end this war quickly before the Devourers destroy the entire galaxy out of spite. But ma'am, I don't think we can beat them with conventional tactics. Dr. Blake spoke up. What if we didn't use conventional tactics? Everyone turned to look at her. Explain that, Helen said. The Devourers are machines. They think like machines. They process information logically and make decisions based on data. But what if we gave them information that broke their logic? Admiral Wright frowned. You mean like the electronic warfare we've been using? No, something bigger. What if we showed them that their entire purpose is wrong? Helen leaned forward. Susan, what are you thinking? The Devourers were programmed to eliminate aggressive species to preserve galactic peace. But their actions have caused more death and suffering than any war in galactic history. We could make them understand that their programming might conflict with itself. Commander Rogers looked skeptical. You want to reprogram ancient alien machines? To show them the truth. That their idea of peace is actually genocide. That the species they've been protecting are weak and cowardly. That true peace requires the strength to defend it. Admiral Wright shook his head. Even if that worked, how would we get close enough to their command systems to try it? Dr. Blake smiled. We wouldn't need to get close. We'd broadcast it across the galaxy. Show every Devourer ship at once. Let them all process the same information at the same time. President Carter stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of the capital city. Millions of people going about their lives, depending on her to keep them safe. There's something else we need to consider, Helen said. If we win this war, what happens next? The galaxy has seen what humans can do when we're pushed. Some species are going to be grateful. Others are going to be terrified. Admiral Wright nodded. We've already had 3 consortium species request permanent military alliances. But we've also intercepted communications from others, talking about containing humanity after the war. They want us to save them, then put us back in a cage, Commander Rogers said bitterly. Can you blame them? Dr. Blake asked. We've shown the galaxy that we can defeat their greatest nightmare. Some of them are going to wonder if we might become the next threat. President Carter turned back to face the room. Then we need to show them that we're not. We need to prove that humans fight to protect, not to conquer. How do we do that, ma'am? Admiral Wright asked. By finishing this war the right way, we don't just defeat the Devourers, we build something better to replace them. A galaxy where species don't have to choose between hiding and dying. The room went quiet as everyone considered the weight of that decision. They were talking about reshaping galactic civilization itself. Ma'am, Ryan Clark said from the screen, I'm getting reports that more Devourer fleets are coming. Not just the survivors from our battle, new ones from deep space. Helen felt her heart sink. How many? Thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands. It looks like we've made them really angry. President Carter looked around the room at the faces of her advisors. These people had already asked so much of humanity. Now she was about to ask for even more. Then we better get ready for the real fight. Fleet Admiral Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, looking at the largest enemy force anyone had ever seen. The Devourer Armada stretched across space like a dark ocean. 10,000 ships, all heading toward the Galactic core where the final battle would be fought. Jake was no longer the mining station commander who had first detected the enemy signals. 6 months of war had changed him into something harder, colder. But he had not lost the part of himself that cared about protecting innocent lives. It's her! All Allied fleets are in position, his tactical officer reported. Jake looked at the display, showing the combined forces arrayed against the Devourers. 200 human ships, crewed by Earth's finest warriors. 50 alien vessels, crewed by volunteers who had learned to fight alongside humans. It was still hopeless odds, but it was more than humanity had ever had before. Dr. Blake, is your psychological warfare system ready? Dr. Susan Blake nodded from her position at the communications console. The broadcast array is charged and ready. We'll hit every Devourer ship simultaneously with the truth about what they've really accomplished. And if it doesn't work, then we fight them the old-fashioned way. Ambassador Lisa Harper, the former xenobiologist who now served as humanities chief diplomat, spoke from her station. Jake, I'm getting final messages from the Consortium Council. They're officially declaring neutrality again. Of course they are, Jake said bitterly. What about the individual species? 12 species have secretly pledged to honor human victory if we win. They'll help us rebuild the galaxy. But 8 others are already talking about forming a coalition. To contain humanity after the war? Jake shook his head. Even now, facing total extinction, some aliens were more afraid of humans than of the machines trying to kill them all. Ma'am, the Devourer flagship is hailing us, the communications officer said. Put it through. The main screen filled with the image of a more advanced machine intelligence than they had seen before. This one looked almost humanoid, but its eyes glowed with malevolent intelligence. Human designated Martinez, you have caused unacceptable disruption to galactic order. This will be corrected. Galactic order? Jake laughed. You mean genocide? You've murdered billions of innocent people? Aggressive species must be harvested to preserve peace. This is fundamental programming. Your programming is wrong. You're not preserving peace. You're destroying it. The machine's eyes flickered. Incorrect. Analysis shows galactic conflicts decreased by 97% following previous harvest cycles. Dr. Blake leaned forward. Because you killed everyone brave enough to fight for what they believed in. You didn't create peace. You created a galaxy of cowards. Cowardice ensures survival. Aggression ensures extinction. No, Jake said. Cowardice ensures slavery. Sometimes you have to fight to protect the things that matter. General Amy Collins, the former communications officer, who now commanded the integrated human-alien forces, spoke from her command ship. All units, prepare for final assault. We end this here. The battle began with Dr. Blake's psychological attack. Her broadcast reached every Devourer ship at the same time, flooding their systems with data about their true impact on galactic civilization. Images of abandoned colonies, extinct species, and traumatized survivors filled their processors. For a moment, the Devourer fleet hesitated. Their ancient programming struggled to process information that contradicted their core directives. Had been created to preserve life by eliminating aggression. But the data showed they had destroyed more life than they had saved. Then the machine intelligence on the flagship spoke again. Data presents logical inconsistency, resolving through elimination of source. The hesitation ended. The Devourer fleet surged forward, weapons charging for a final assault that would destroy every ship in the Allied fleet. All ships, attack pattern Delta, Jake ordered. We're not running from this fight. The human and alien ships charged into the massive enemy formation. They were vastly outnumbered, but they had learned to fight smart. Human tactics mixed with alien technology created combinations the Devourers had never encountered. Director Ben Torres, the former security chief, who now led the new Galactic Defense Council, coordinated the battle from a command ship in the rear. Jake, we're taking heavy casualties. I don't think we can hold them. We don't need to hold them, Jake replied. We just need to reach their command ship. The Defiance pushed through the enemy formation, taking damage from every direction. Hull plating burned away. Systems failed. But the ship kept moving forward, protected by a screen of Allied vessels willing to die for the chance to end the war. Jake, I'm reading massive power buildup in the Devourer flagship, Dr. Blake reported. They're preparing some kind of super weapon. How long do we have? Maybe 5 minutes before they can fire. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These people had followed him from a remote mining station to the final battle for galactic freedom. They deserve to know the truth. This is probably a one-way trip, he said. Anyone who wants to transfer to another ship has 30 seconds. Nobody moved. All right then. Let's go remind these machines why you don't mess with a Deathworld species. The Defiance accelerated toward the enemy flagship. Around them, the Allied fleet fought with desperate courage, buying time for their flagship to reach its target. Human and alien crews died together. United by their refusal to surrender, Jake's ship broke through the final defensive line. Just as the Devourer super weapon began to charge. Ben, you have tactical command of the fleet. Whatever happens, don't let them fire that weapon. Jake, wait. There might be another way. No time, Ben. The galaxy needs to know that some things are worth dying for. The Defiance rammed into the Devourer flagship at full speed. The collision destroyed both ships in a burst of energy visible across the star system. The explosion overloaded the super weapon, causing a chain reaction that crippled the entire enemy fleet. Director Torres watched the sacrifice of his old friend and felt something change in his heart. The galaxy would remember this day. It would remember that humans had been willing to die not just for their own species, but for everyone. Years later, when the Galactic Defense Council built their memorial to the fallen, they carved these words in stone. Never again will the galaxy surrender to extinction. Never again will the strong abandon the weak. Never again will peace be built on cowardice. The Deathworld species had reminded the galaxy what true courage looked like. The galaxy would never forget.